So I don't think Tat can stop getting blasted on Twitter. Uh, guys, you'll probably see my video earlier this week, and at the time of recording, I have yet to post it, so I don't know how that video is going to do. My assumption is it's probably going to not be very popular with the people who are players because I kind of throw shade at a lot of players who have the mentality that collectors and investors are bad. But after that tweet happened, Tat posted, "Why can't players and collectors just get along?" Because the tweet that responded to his tweet had caused a few people to argue. Now, it's not a big tweet at all. Like, there's not a lot of substance to the tweet because there's not any big accounts going at it, but there are still people arguing. And it led to somebody actually responding in a similar fashion to this, and it's somebody who's pretty, I'm not going to say well known in the player community, but her tweets pop up a lot on my feed, even though I've never interacted with this person. So Tad said, "Why can't players and collectors just get along?" And you see here a lot of people are having fun with it. Money. Well, if you didn't call their favorite SV set Rebel Clash in Darkness ablaze, like just some jokes. And then like Juice up here said, "As a collector, I fully understand why players don't like some of us." But Tad had an excellent point that if you don't like some collectors, if you have a bad experience with some collectors, you shouldn't hate every collector, and you shouldn't generalize that all collectors are the same and that all collectors are similar to invest bros. And the same thing happens here is it's like Juice Prophet says generalization happens all the time. And I think that kind of falls back on the players too, where a lot of collectors just think that all players have this elitist mentality. And to be fair, some do, but a lot of them have really, really great personalities, and they're really accepting of anybody who loves the Pokemon hobby, whether they're a collector or a player. So, guys, just a quick heads up, don't lump anybody into one group. Don't think one group is completely negative and the other is completely positive, because every side of the hobby has their bad apples, and most people on that side are amazing people. With that being said, this is the tweet I was talking about. This is Sombra, a Sombra Curse. "Because I sell a card to a collector, I'm treated horribly. No matter how many pics and videos I send of a card, and they will get mad at me if it doesn't magically show up in a day. If I sell to a player, they just send the money and wait for the card." She responded to Tat's tweet here. And unfortunately here, you see, she didn't retweet him. She screenshotted his post. So once again, these players are pretty much shitting on somebody's tweet that's on the collector side of the hobby, but they won't even retweet the guy. And I want to go through some of these replies because I'm about to dispute a lot of this bullshit. It's gotten so bad that sometimes I want to not sell to someone the moment they mention grading, because generally those are the worst and cruelest buyers for literally no reason. I have never sold a card where somebody has mentioned grading directly. One of the things that is very common with purchasing cards that I've come across, and I will show you guys that I am a massive single seller on both platforms. One of the things that comes across to me is that anytime a seller mentions grading, or anytime a buyer mentions grading, it could convince the seller to grade the card themselves. So it's better just to ask for the pics and not ask if it would grade a 10, because you don't want the seller to inspect the card if you think it's a possible 10. So I don't think this happens a lot. It may have happened in her case. Maybe she posted like 17 Giratinas in a row, and all 17 Giratinas were getting their cockles sucked, and every freaking collector in the world wanted them at PSA 10. But I don't think, looking at her seller account that she's using as an example here, I don't think she had that many cards or this many experiences, but that's just a personal assumption. This is not fact. She may have had a bunch of bad experiences with collectors. I'm not sure. But I want to point out some of the replies. First and foremost, number one, Jirachi enthusiast. "The sanity I've saved by not dealing with TCG player customers anymore is astronomical." And ironically, she says that TCG player is hers and all she does is sell playable cards. I sell both collectible and playable cards on TCG player. I have 14,000 completed sales, and I want to show you guys my negative feedbacks and my neutral feedbacks. These are the only customers I've ever had an issue with. 9 days, still no order. She received her order 3 days after leaving this feedback. I asked her to change it. She did not. This was back in 2020 before TCG Player updated the delivery window from 12 to 15 days, so I couldn't get TCG Player to change it. I accepted it because at least she left it neutral. Please use top loaders, but half my order was bent. I contacted this customer to try to fix this issue. This customer did not respond. I don't know what cards he claimed were bent. I do admit this was at a time frame where top loaders were really expensive, and I had a back stock of card savers, so I did ship an order in card savers. And I think he had like a 3 or 4 card order, so maybe some of them slipped out and got damaged. But he didn't tell me which ones, because as a seller, I would have 100% refunded any cards that were damaged. So far, 2 orders, none of them about quick deliveries, none of them about lying conditions. Resealed, I think he misspelled this. He was supposed to say resealed packages, complete scam, reporting your company. At this time, I didn't know you could report fake feedbacks to TCG Player. He ordered a 15-cent bulk card. And this was right after I canceled a bunch of scalpers pre-orders on my website for celebrations. So I think somebody went to my TCG Player to try to leave me a negative feedback by buying a bulk card, and they accused me of scamming by resealing a package. And at this time, I didn't sell anything sealed on TCG Player just because of this reason. I strictly sold sealed product on my website. So this was a false feedback, and this was before I knew you could just message TCG Player and report fake feedback and get it removed. Ordered 2 numerate cards, both which were placed in the same penny sleeve and the same top loader. He says card saver. I put them in top loaders because at this point in 2022, I was using top loaders to ship. Both cards were marked as near mint. They were near mint. The customer was just unhappy. I placed 2 50-cent cards in the same penny sleeve. And I explained to him that the cost of shipping with the price he paid did not warrant multiple sleeves nor extra protective packaging such as cardboard or anything like that, or a bubble mailer. But he didn't change that. And unfortunately, this is the kind of feedback that TCG Player won't remove because they think it's valid. I did block the seller, though. Really crazy instance. And this is probably my only instance where I kind of have an experience similar to Sombra, where somebody is complaining ridiculously about condition that is unreasonable. Came later than expected. At this time, I forgot what happened here, but I will admit this was an honest mistake on my part. I dropped the order off like 3 days after I said it was shipped, and it arrived later than it should have. And it was totally on me, completely my fault. Pretty bad shipping, just a plain envelope and no protective packaging. Cards weren't even placed into the sleeves properly. Another instance where I think this was the time where I wasn't using team bags to sell. So the cards kind of slipped out of the team bag. As for protective packaging, this guy didn't order anything expensive. So like I told him in a message, you can't expect things like cardboard and me paying extra for postage if you're ordering bulk cards. But not being placed into the sleeve or top loader properly, that was my fault. And this is around the time where I started team bagging anything that was even remotely decent price, and then putting painter's tape on top of top loaders for like orders that are less than $2. Seller marked the order shipped next day, but then took over a week to actually mail the cards. This was not true. Postmarked 8 days later, not true. This was around the time when Houston started having massive delays. So Houston, the post office themselves delayed my package or my order, and it wasn't my fault. I dropped it off at the post office on time. Houston took forever to process. And then they said that the 2 light play cards were worse than light played. They were both cards from Collector's Chest that had a small, like literal small ding at the top border on each of them. They were still light played by condition. So here's the second feedback where I would argue that I'm receiving the kind of BS that people complain about. And both times it's about bulk cards. It was never about any of my high dollar cards. I sold multiple Lugia alt arts. I sold my Giratina alt art, and I sold multiple other alt arts, including a lot of Evolving Skies alt arts on this site. Never had those complaints with any of those high end cards. But these 2 right here both have kind of the similar complaint. I sold them 50-cent cards. I sold them 15-cent cards, and they're not as minty as they could be, but they were still under near mint threshold. And then This person said, haven't received the item and won't answer my messages. I want to say this was around the time I was on vacation and I just didn't get back to shore because I was on a cruise ship. Didn't get back to shore in time to respond to the seller. And when I came back, I immediately refunded the seller, but they still left a feedback. And I didn't bother to fight it because at the time I wasn't using TCG Player that often. I was barely selling. So this one was completely on me. But at the same time, I was on vacation. My inventory was hidden. So I tried to explain that to the buyer. So only 2 of these out of my 14,500 transactions have any of these complaints. And then I want to go over to my extra 5,100 transactions on eBay. And I see So Great Fast Shipping. Never had a message on this platform about shipping speed. Never had a message on this platform about conditions. Outside of people maybe asking if I didn't put a back pick to post a back pick on the listing so they could see the card. And sometimes it'll get me a sale, sometimes it won't. It is totally fine. I will totally add a front and back picture and some closer up pictures if requested on any card that's like over $10. Anything under, I just tell them it is a low value card. It is near mint, but because I have multiple copies of that card in stock, I'm not going to post a picture of it. A lot of buyers understand that. I don't think I've had anybody get mad about that because like I tell them, if they look at my inventory, I have thousands of cards listed. It's just impossible for me to picture every single card. And it's better just to use stock photos of all the lower end cards, especially the cards I list at 99 cents. So I tell buyers like when they request it, if I can do it or not. And a lot of times if it's over $10 and I only have 1 copy of the card, I will do it. And it has really, really been appreciated by buyers. I've never had anybody complain. I never had anybody tell me that it's bullshit that I don't have a PSA 10 copy of the card, that my copy should be gradable or anything like that if I list it as near mint. And it is totally, I've never had a bad interaction with a buyer. I did have 1 negative feedback within the past year. This is Koyo Pokemon Cash. They said that the card arrived with print lines on the back. If you guys don't know, every near mint card today, and like Scarlet and Violet era, has a slight roller mark on the top of the card. There was no major scratches like this person put. It was literally just slight roller marks on this card, just very small roller marks. And it was at the very top of the card. To me, that's still near mint. The card is perfect otherwise. And it was a $4 card. It was Artist Own Secret Rare, Hyper Rare. And I just didn't fight them. I was like, you know what? I don't ever really get negative feedback. I'm just going to leave this one here. They did get a response. It did take me a couple of days because once again, I was starting up the school semester, so I couldn't respond right away. But it did take a couple of days to respond, but I did respond to this person and explain to them that it is still classified as near mint under the eBay policies, and that if they wanted a partial refund, I'd offer it, but they never responded to the partial refund request. And I wasn't going to refund them if they didn't ask for it. So, and then I have 2 neutrals. This one, I will never understand why it was neutral. It's just a period. And this one says my bulk lots were subpar. It literally said it was modern bulk, mostly from late Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet eras. And I even put that. I think that the buyer was looking for like hidden gems in the bulk, or bulk with like mixed in ultra rares and holo rares, or a bulk with like vintage bulk. And on my listings explicitly stated that I didn't offer those in my bulk lots. And there was a reason why my bulk lots were literally put at $7 shipped for each bulk lot. So my complaints are not anywhere near what Sombra's experienced. Once again, she may have experienced it. She may have just been unlucky and got the buyers who treated her that way. But I've had over 20,000 transactions as a Pokemon vendor, and never once did I ever have those experiences for high-end cards. And the only 2 times I've had experiences like that, low-end cards. Very low-end cards. So going back to some of these other replies, the real answer is he uses the word in collector when he means investor. This Gilbert guy here is literally putting here investors putting words in the tattooed Pokemon's mouth, once again insinuating that tattooed Pokemon is an investor. Going back to that original tweet we mentioned in the previous video, that was the insinuation that a lot of people were getting from that tweet at face value. Even if the original poster Jester did not mean that, it's definitely could be implicated that originally he did and backtracked when he got a lot of backlash. But once again, you see again another person is believing that. And then she put, and this is going back to that same idea that a lot of players have this idea that collectors and investors have the same attitude, or the same people. They often have the same attitude. Not all of them, but I've not had a good experience in general either way. And if they ask for the front and back, they are normally looking to invest in the card. They want a 9 or 10 quality. On Facebook, I have multiple collectors, but light played cards I played with and admitted to play with no complaints. So I can understand that, yeah, maybe a player ain't going to care that much, especially because the difference between near mint and light played, if you're playing with it, is not that big. But when somebody refuses to show the back of the card when you got a potential buyer, especially for a high-end card, the first implication is always that you're trying to hide something. If you're really trying to sell a card, if you're really trying to sell a high dollar card at that, why not show the back, right? Why not show the back? And that's kind of what I get here. The attitude is the same on a higher level. There are some kind of collectors who simply want the cards, but they're not the norm. Whether you call it bad egg collectors or investors, they are the majority currently. So once again, should take lumping everybody together, generalizing, and assuming that just because people like to grade cards and because they're asking for front and back picks is that they're assholes. Not that people trying to sell the card at market value and refusing to give pictures of the card. Like, who's the asshole here? The seller or the buyer? I personally think the seller, but that's just me. And that's a guy who sold 20,000 plus transactions in the past couple of years as a vendor. So I don't know. You take that as you will. It's gotten so bad that master sitters are ordering sub $1 cards from TCG Player and expecting the PSA graders, like PSA graders, and have no actual concept of mint versus near mint anymore. Here's the thing. A lot of vendors, and I'm going to be honest because I've started paying attention, a lot of vendors don't realize that almost 50% of your reverse holos that you pull from a pack, even Scarlet and Violet era, are light played. The print quality on English reverse holos is shit. I guarantee that this guy's most of this guy's evidence will come from him selling reverse holos that he did not properly inspect. I don't want a scratched up or heavily print lined reverse holo if I paid for a near mint. Any seller would not. And that's just the truth. She says that she used to sell high dollar stuff on Facebook. I'll be honest. I've tried to sell on Facebook. Facebook is shit. It's a hellhole. It's miserable. It sucks. Trying to see if there's anything in this conversation that's any more. Bunch of playables at 50% of TCG player pricing. And it's funny because this right here, this line is referring to another playable another player, because she says that she ended up beating him at a regional. Once again, you could tell that's a kind of condescending and elitist comment, but I'll leave it at that. Front and back picks of a $5 card, and they all want videos of the corners now too. 20,000 transactions. Never once have I been asked for a video of a card. Even $400 and $500 cards, even $1,000 graded cards. Never once been asked for a video of a card. If you're getting asked for videos of a card, you're in the wrong marketplace trying to sell stuff in a place that is probably not a good place to sell. And that's on you for not doing your research on where the safest places to sell are. Is it weird that I've had the opposite interaction? Same, Stormy, same. Yeah, because she said that she's gotten the interaction that she needed it for attorney. I had one person do that. Specifically, they paid for express shipping. I did not see it, and I shipped it in a plain white envelope, and they got mad it didn't arrive by the weekend, and I apologized. I fully refunded their whole order and told them to keep the cards when they eventually arrive in the envelope. Uh, but I've never had somebody just get mad and they ordered like standard shipping. And I've only ever sold my full collection of cards, and every person being like, can you count how many foils? What's the highest price card in it? If you're selling a full collection, expect these questions. There are too many collections that get posted online. And what ends up happening is a lot of people will put like 3 good cards at the front of the collection to make it seem like the collection's more valuable than what it is. And everything behind it is bulk. So somebody might be asking, hey, what's your breakdown on your collection? How many foils are in here? How many ultra rares? How many alternate arts? How many of them are commons and uncommons? How many of them are reverses? Because they don't want to get ripped off by you selling a collection that uses a picture to mislead them on how good the collection can be, especially if you're not showing the full collection. Now, if it's different if you were to like post like a binder collection and posted every page of the binder, then there's no excuse for somebody to ask all these questions. But if you're selling like a monster box of 5,000 cards and you're like selling my Pokemon collection and you show the front 5 cards and they're all like rainbow Charizards, but everything behind it is bulk, the immediate assumption somebody looking at that would be, well, maybe there's more rainbow Charizards in this box, or maybe there's other high-end cards. But there's not, right? You put 4,800 bulk cards behind 5 Charizards, and now somebody's going to overpay thinking there's more. So it is totally fair that somebody be asking questions to see what's fully in your collection. So I understand you might have decks, you might have different playable stuff in there, but you should 100% be transparent when selling collections. That's just a personal opinion. You can feel completely opposite. You could think if it's just a collection, they shouldn't have to be clear or whatever on what they're selling. But I think if you're selling a full-on collection, you need to be clear. But I wanted to talk about this take because once again, I look over at Sombra's Twitter and try to see how often she sold high-end stuff. And I could not find her TCG player account. Even when I go here, you can't look up a seller, right? And then if you go S Curse Cards TCG player, right? I can't find her account, right? Like it brings up a whole bunch of other stuff. So I don't know how well she does. But on April 5th, she barely became a level 4 seller. So that leads me to believe that she's at least not on the level that I am when it comes to like the amount of transactions and the amount of completed sales and the amount of experience selling online. But at the same time, like more of these posts were here like today's pickups than anyone selling anything high dollar. There was only 2 that I seen that was 100% a high dollar sell that maybe somebody would want to grade. First and foremost, Iron Crown, selling it at a market price, which is ironic considering you complain about collectors, but yet you want to sell this at the marked up price when it was super hyped up and marked up. And then you see anyone need bulk EXs or Vs. And then go down here, she's got an EV set that she was trying to sell from her main account. And the interesting thing about this EV set, these are from the collection box that is really hard to find. These are all promos, black and white era, of desirable EV cards that are actually pretty pricey. Anybody who is interested in these, especially paying $145, is probably going to ask for close-up pictures of all the cards. Maybe not a video, but at least close-up pictures. But then you scroll down, cannot find much else in terms of sales. In terms of anything being listed for like a high price, right? And sure, you could say that arguably that maybe, just maybe at this point, she had given up on selling expensive cards on social media because of her experience with Facebook. But even then, this is the only evidence I have of what type of vendor that she is to give this kind of experience, especially with collectors. Because if her only experience selling to collectors is Facebook, the one thing I learned from vending on Facebook, especially because I know like the most popular places to sell are like Verbank and shit, is that it is terrible. You get a lot of unrealistic expectations, a lot of scammers, and a lot of lowballers. It is really bad. And you just have to learn that comes with the territory of selling any high-end card if you're trying to sell on social media. If you want to sell the card without any of that hassle, go to TCG Player or eBay. Or open up your own online store and promote that via your social medias. But for the most part, I get tired of seeing this collector versus player debate, especially because you see so many of these players try to lump all these collectors in with investors. And it's funny because all the tweets that happen, there's a couple of negative tweets towards players from collectors, but most of them are like, hey, we really help out the hobby. We help lower the prices of all your playable cards because we don't want them. Like, in all honesty, the playable trainers and stuff, they drag down over time because nobody wants them. And then you see comments like people saying Iron Hands EX ends up in bulk boxes. Like, it's their fucking card. It doesn't matter where it ends up, whether they want to put it in the binder, whether they want to put it for sale, or whether they want to put it in the bulk box. And that's just the kind of mentality that a lot of these players have. And it's starting to get real frustrating as a collector that used to be a former player to watch players trash collectors. Because one of the things that I gotta say is when I was playing, there was a lot of collectors who would come in and they wouldn't know anything about the game, and then you can kind of reel them in, right? You get a lot of the like pre-release weekends where you get collectors coming in and they don't play. So they just buy their kits and they drop out the games and they just get their packs, right? And then when I was playing, there was no elitist attitude. We would just invite people in and try to play. I remember playing my first pre-release event. I went 2-0, and then I ran into, I want to say it was Ultra Prism and Polion, and that little bastard was tough as shit to beat. And it was a fun experience as somebody who started getting back into collecting. And then I was trying to get into playing. And I went to one of these pre-release events just to have fun. And I was like, hey, this is a great experience. Everybody was nice. Even the Empoleon guy who kind of stomped my ass was super chill about it. We were laughing about it. I was like, man, that card is super broken for this format. And we were just having a great old life and a great old time. And it ended up being a fun experience. And I feel like now the players are starting to create this kind of like elite group, and it seems more intimidating now for a new collector to even get into playing, because all you see on social media now is players shitting on collectors, calling them investors. Although if I was to look at any of these collector streams, I would 100% guarantee there's sealed products sitting in the back of their streams. I'm not even gonna lie when I say this, but like I know Sombra here streams, and I'm not going to pull up her stream, but I would 100% say that if I was to pull up her stream, I would put money that there's probably a sealed product in her collection somewhere. If you have at least one sealed product that you're keeping sealed, you're an investor. It's as simple as that, because you chose at least one product to keep sealed and let it grow in your collection over time. Hell, if you collect any of the cards, you're an investor. Because nobody wants to collect these cards and hope the price tanks to 50 cents a card from $200. Let's be fucking for real and be honest. Nobody collects Pokemon cards and wants their collection to dip in value. And I'm tired of pretending otherwise. Because if we're being honest, a lot of these players make it seem like they feel that way, but that is not true. And there's a reason why a lot of these players start putting these $300 cards in their decks and riffle shuffling to try to like piss off collectors and investors. But reality is they don't realize that if they do accidentally end up damaging their card, that's just one less on the market. And it actually helps investors that they're complaining about, because the less on the market, the more the card will go up over time. So it's like, it's dumb no matter what. And it gets really annoying to see this, being a former player myself of both Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon, to not have anybody really come off as accepting of collectors entering into the trading card game. And it's complete opposite for One Piece, right? I know One Piece players have been complaining about the availability of product, but they also try to get all these people who are buying One Piece who are new to the game and new to the series, because there's a lot of One Piece collectors who've never watched the anime before or ever read the manga who are getting into it. But every One Piece player I've met has tried to grow the game. by adopting more and more of these people to come in. Same with Digimon, and even the same with Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! Has a real big problem with new players in the game. And one of the things that's interesting about Yu-Gi-Oh! Is if you ever meet players, while there's some asshole players and a lot of degenerate players in the hobby in terms of like the fact that they actually have a freaking rule that you have to shower, Yu-Gi-Oh! Doesn't have a problem with denying players the potential to join. There are a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Players I've met who have welcomed new players. I've had people throw games for me in a tournament to help me get victories playing Witchcrafters before it was cool, before Master Duel came out. Nobody's seen anybody play Witchcrafters and try to make it competitive, and I had Sky Striker players throwing the game being like, I really respect your effort playing a new deck. And it's such a fun experience to go to a locals and play a fun deck and just have a lot of fun. And Yu-Gi-Oh! Has always been accepting, in my opinion. Now, I will say there are bad aspects to Yu-Gi-Oh! Just like there is any card game. But when it comes to inviting collectors into the player side, Pokemon has a really, really bad time doing that. Because most of the TCG competitive scene that post on social media tends to shit on the collectors and investors in the hobby. They don't try to bring them to their side to help their side grow and to keep them around for as long as possible. No, they just shit on them. They're bad for the hobby. We hate their guts. And it is just absolutely demeaning as somebody who's been in Pokemon a lot longer than a lot of these fuckers even have. And it is so disheartening to know that a lot of these people have turned into this like toxic part of the hobby, all because they want to lump everybody together. Sure, there are really bad investor people in this hobby and there are really bad collectors in this hobby, just like there's elitist asshole players in this hobby. And that I just wanted to rant a little bit about this dumbass take, because you get these dumbass takes all the time with all these different players. And I could easily go back and do more and more of these dumbass takes, because I guarantee another one's going to pop up. And it'd be interesting to see if it's from a tweet from Tattooed Pokemon, because that would be hilarious, right? It'd be super funny if Tattooed Pokemon ends up being the next tweet I see, if it's another one of his tweets. Because if you guys don't know, Tattooed Pokemon, you can never take this man seriously because he's a shit poster. Day 181 of asking Max Mofo to open Pokemon cards again. Blocked by Yu-Gi-Oh! For seemingly no reason. This and popping Zens while looking at shiny cardboard. Like, but you see here, collector. He's not trying to invest in these cards. He's trying to collect these. These are what he needs now to finish off his collection. And that's the thing. It's just because he wants to buy these expensive cards, I think a lot of people are lumping him with an investor. And it's dumb, because half of his shit is just hilarious shit posting. The other half is being a genuine collector. But you see here, this take right here that got a lot of backlash from players. You could tell that he's meaning this as a joke, because his first initial tweet afterwards is, "Hey Juice, how's this take?" And then you see here shit posting using the Donald Trump assassination attempt. And then shit posting about Evolving Skies. Like, he's just somebody who loves Pokemon. He is somebody just having fun, having a lot of jokes, talking about the hobby as a whole and his own opinions, and then making a terrible list of top 10 rappers. But you see here that nothing here is ever told me or anybody who actually interacts with this guy that he's an investor. He's somebody who's joined the hobby. He is memeing the hell out of a lot of his posts and just having a good old time with it. And it's just so disheartening that two of his tweets were taken by players today, because I recorded both of these videos on the same day, and he just got shitted on. But at the same time, they didn't even have the balls to retweet him. They screenshotted his shit, cropped it out, and then left his name on there so other people could shit on him. But none of them bothered to even retweet him. And I'd put money that Tad is probably blocked by Sombra, and he probably didn't even know it. Because what these echo chamber assholes like to do is they like to post these takes, And then they like to only have people that agree with them repeat it. So that way people can't challenge it. So that way people can't call it out. And it's just disheartening. But unlike most people who probably browse their Twitter homepage on following, I browse on For You a lot. And that's where you get a lot of these hot takes. If you're browsing For You page, you're going to see a lot of crazy mess. Anyways, guys, that is my long rambling video again. Hopefully you guys love that. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching. Let me know your opinions on the conversation down below. And if you like Pokemon content and trading cards and video games, just make sure you continue subscribing to the channel. As always, I'll catch you on the next video. Bye.